Hey guys, what's going on? So today we are doing a little artifact guide. I figured the easiest and most clear way to do something like this would just be to go through all of the artifacts and try and advise where they would be good at, where they wouldn't be so good at, and give my personal thoughts on them. The overlay of the artifacts is coming from a really handy website called maskofgoblin.com, so big shout out to them. So firstly, let's talk about the masks, because I think most people have these pretty early on. These masks are actually very good all throughout the entire game. The only problem is there's not that many places where you can really take advantage of them. But if there is a place that you can take advantage of a mask, that is the best in slot. You'll mostly be wanting to put this on your DPS to have them do more damage. Then you can also give one to your tank because it also gives damage resistance. The Mask of Goblin, for example, works of course against all goblins, but also against the Urkak challenge raid. I believe all of those challenge raids can be made easier with a different mask, because we have the harpy, we have the goblin, we have the orc, we have the skeleton. So whenever you're going for a challenge raid, make sure to put on the appropriate mask. And also some stages in the Tower of Challenge. No mask works on other heroes. Like the harpy mask doesn't work on Nyla, goblin mask doesn't work on Lakrak, etc, etc. Besides that, we can talk about the seasonal artifacts, the ones you can't get anymore, the limited time artifacts. The Angry Pumpkinhead is one of those. It's a very good general artifact you can have on pretty much anyone. You do more damage, you take less damage. It's just very simple, straightforward. It's a very good artifact. So if you're not doing anything specific, you can never go wrong giving them an Angry Pumpkinhead. We also have the Cross Pumpkinhead, which came along with the Angry Pumpkinhead. This one is good for tanks, especially tanks with a lot of HP. The Cross Pumpkinhead is pretty much vital and necessary to a DPS fill-up and DPS Sonya build, or rather it takes them to the next level. I believe there were DPS fill-ups before we had the Cross Pumpkinhead. They've just gotten a lot better with it. Basically just increases your max HP, but the main thing is that it deals damage worth 2% of max HP. So if you have a fill-up with 6 million HP, that damage is really going to add up. The Fancy Traditional Pendant was, I believe, a New Year's event. Again, it's just one of those general artifacts. It is pretty good. Crit chance plus 10%, crit damage plus 20%. So if you don't have your perfect gear set up yet, or if you can't take a healer with a crit perk for some reason, then this might bridge the gap to get you to 100 or at least near 100, and the crit damage is a nice little bonus as well. We also got the New Year's Firework, which is another limited time event. I think this one is pretty bad. It's a very low 5% attack increase, and then on top of that it has a duration of 60 seconds. That 60-second duration wouldn't really matter in a lot of cases, like, you know, arena or story stages, because it should reset after every stage. But for those that don't have access to many, then it's, you know, it's okay. And we also have the Christmas Star Ornament, which was from the Christmas event. This is mainly for arena, but it can be used outside of that, because again, this artifact resets on every stage. So it can be used outside of arena, but it is mainly for arena, and it is pretty good in arena, definitely, because many times the battle is not only decided by the comp, but who can get their skills off faster. So anything that lets you get your skills off faster is always very, very good in arena. It also has an added crit resistance of 10% on it, as well as the fact it cannot be dispelled. So it being undispellable further proves that it's definitely meant for arena. And I'm pretty sure that's all for the special artifacts, the ones you can't really get anymore. Did I go over the well done turkey roast? That should have been in the other one, but it was down there where I couldn't see. It's bad. Hopefully you never got one, and if you did, you probably shouldn't use it anyway. So now we're going to be moving on to the World Boss artifacts, the ones you can buy with World Boss points. Starting with, of course, the Blessing of Earth. I think this is the most common, the one people pick the most, because it's simple, can be used on all DPS, but it can only really be used effectively in two places, and that is World Boss and Guild Raid. But World Boss and Guild Raid are very important for a lot of people at end game, because that's like the thing they're mostly striving for, to be good in, to get better in World Boss, etc. So for the most part, if you want to do well in World Boss, if you want to start doing more damage in Guild Raid, this is the artifact you want to buy. There's also the Earth Core, which is a good general artifact. I would still urge you to buy Blessing of Earths though. We also have Earth Protection, which I made the mistake of getting because I wasn't really sure it would be dispellable when I bought it, but it definitely is, and now I never use it anymore. This is like purely for arena. Leo is still common, and he can dispel that very quickly, and if it's not Leo, it's Scarlet, which can also dispel it very quickly, and then you're not immune to CC anymore, so, you know, it's kind of pointless. Then we got the newer artifacts for World Boss 2 or Protanius. This one's similar to the Sealed Chain of Ancient God, where that it targets one random enemy and reduces their attack speed to 1000 and attack by 20%. Again, I wouldn't recommend this. There are just better artifacts to spend your tokens on. So if it would be uncleansable and it would for sure target the one with the highest attack, then perhaps, yes, it would be a pretty good artifact for Arena. But I'm not sure if anyone has actually purchased this ever, so who knows? We also got the Trident of the Deep, which actually is a pretty good one as well for some heroes like Nyx that can hit a lot of different enemies at the same time. So for AoE situations, it could be very good. Fast attackers with some AoE should be able to have 100% uptime in AoE situations where there's multiple enemies. Its attack boost isn't quite as high as a Blessing of Earth, but if you build a hero around this, you can build them with less crit chance and more other stats like penetration, crit damage, attack speed, whatever. So if you're sure you're only going to use a hero in one situation, you can always have them with the Trident of the Deep, and since they'll always have 100% uptime, they'll always have that extra 20 crit. You can go for different substats, and the attack increase is almost as high as the Blessing of Earth, and there doesn't need to be only one enemy. So it is a lot more versatile than the Blessing of Earth, but you would need a special hero to be able to pull it off, to have 100% uptime or near 100% uptime. And finally, we have the Guardian Crystal of the Deep, where it's like the Blessing of Earth, but just with defense. Most of the time you just want your DPS doing more damage to get a higher score on World Boss, not for one hero to survive a little bit longer. I mean, it doesn't really make sense to get this because most of the time it's going to be your DPS that are the squishiest and the ones that might die first, but it's also those DPS you want the Blessing of Earth on and not the Guardian Crystal of the Deep. So your tanks in most cases shouldn't have any problem surviving anyway, and if they do, they really just need better gear and not this crystal. And yeah, that's pretty much all the special artifacts. Now we can go through the general artifacts, ones you would be able to select with like an artifact ticket. So starting with the Burning Brazier of Elf, there is a 10% chance every time you attack to recover 1 MP. This is a pretty popular artifact for heroes that need more mana, heroes that attack quickly with their auto attack, because that is the only way it actually activates. I heard it's very popular on heroes like Roy, because Roys need a lot of mana and they do auto attack pretty quickly. 10% chance may not seem like that much, but considering how often you're auto attacking, I think it's plenty. Dice of Magical Letters is a DPS artifact, but not a very good one. There's only a 3% chance per auto attack, and then it's just auto attacks which aren't very strong on their own anyway. If you have no better DPS artifacts, it could be, okay, but 3% chance is extremely low, and I'm not sure how much more powerful an auto attack will be 400% increased. So I definitely wouldn't choose it with any artifact tickets, but if you get it, hold on to it. Maybe you're in a situation that you have no other good DPS artifacts, and so it would be better than nothing. The Drinking Horn of Ancient Cow is a good general DPS item. Attack and attack speed by 10% at 0 star, going all the way up to 25% at 5 stars. The thing I don't really like about this artifact is that it can't be triggered while it's already active, so there will be some forced downtime, but it is what it says it is. If you have no better DPS artifacts, then it is quite good. Next, we're looking at the Golden Apple of a Goddess. I thought this was just called Golden Apple. In my experiences, this is actually mostly for Arena to put on your DPS, actually. Because, in Arena, again, in my experience at least, it's mostly the DPS dying first to AoE, and then, you're just left with a tank there for like 5 or 10 seconds while they just clean up. So if your DPS would be able to survive that little bit longer, you could come back and win the fight. I would say it's more for a tanky DPS with a DPS ring equipped to give them that extra HP, because it does recover based on max HP. So the more HP you have, actually the more HP you'll get back. I've also heard, although I haven't seen this myself necessarily, and I'm not sure how I would test it, that if an attack is strong enough to one-shot your character, the Golden Apple will still save you as long as it doesn't do more than 130% of your max HP. So say your hero has 2 million HP and Luna hits you with a carrot that does 2.1 million HP. Apparently the Golden Apple will still save you, you just won't get all 30% of the HP back. You'll get 25%, whatever was remaining from that 100,000. I hope you get what I mean. I know that was kind of confusing. Now we have the Golden Cat statue, probably one of my favorite artifacts actually. It's good for Arena, it's good for general use. It can be dispelled by like Leos. So if you're fighting a Leo and he does it straight away, then you only get a couple auto attacks off before it's gone. But Leos are becoming a little bit more rare these days, more replaced by Scarlet, which does need a little bit of time to use her S2. And in a lot of cases, they're going to wait for your Scarlet to do its S2 before it does theirs. So I think the Golden Cat can have a little bit more uptime. Besides Arena though, it's good for pretty much everywhere. 400% attack speed is good for DPS, and it's good for mana regen, and it lasts for an entire 15 seconds. So that actually should be long enough if you have a strong team going through like story mode, upper dungeon, whatever. Next we have the Golden Mask of Ancient King. Might be decent for a tank, but it's definitely too RNG for my taste. It's only a 5% chance per hit to gain invulnerability for 3 seconds, and then it has a cooldown of 5 seconds, which doesn't even start until the invulnerability is gone. So I personally wouldn't trust it on my tanks. I would give them anything else that helps them survive. There's also the Insignia of Iron Conviction, which is also a tank artifact. But again, it's not very good. They need to get hit 50 times by IM damage. There might be one or two very, very specific places that this would be good, but then 830% of attack isn't that good either because tanks won't have very high attack regardless. Next we have the Judgment of Light Bracelet, which I believe was pretty popular on Leo to better make sure his silence lands and doesn't get resisted. It's pretty straightforward, accuracy and status effect accuracy. So if the enemy is stacking up CC resist, they might resist your CC. The Judgment of Light Bracelet makes that less likely to happen that they're going to resist because it makes your status effect accuracy go up by 300, which I don't know if you can actually find anywhere else except on this bracelet, status effect accuracy. The Bronze Mirrors here are actually a good tank artifact, but only if you're going into something where the enemies are hitting with magic damage. Here we have the Orbs of Contract. I don't know what to say about this one. I don't have it. I believe it's a newer artifact. On first thought, this might be something good for Mora because I know she benefits from IM defense from some of her perks, I believe. It might just be decent for places where the enemies are hitting with IM damage. Maybe for someone who has actually less IM defense and more attack power, so it would make a bigger difference. The Pocket Watch of Ancient Civilization I also like. I personally use it on my Lorraine in World Boss, so her third skill lines up more closely with Gao's third skill. I only really use it for the cooldown reduction, but the little attack speed increase is nice as well. It does what it says it does, not too much else to say there. Primer for the Heroes is an interesting artifact, but I'm not too sure how useful it would be. It's kind of similar to like Claus's unique weapon. When he's already so low on health, or when anyone with this artifact is so low on health, either they're going to die shortly after or they're going to get healed back up to above 20% HP. Sadly, raising its star level doesn't increase the threshold for when they get these buffs, it just increases the buffs themselves. But 750 damage reduction, who knows? The only one I can really see this maybe being useful for is maybe like a DPS built Jane, because she could safely fall below 20% HP because even when she dies, she comes back to life. Maybe even an Arch because he's the same way. I would keep the artifact in your mind if you have those heroes. It could potentially save you, but it is kind of risky and kind of unreliable. Next, we're looking at the Roaring Tiger statue. This one actually has many effects on it, but they only activate when a hero drops below 35% health. Again, increasing its star level doesn't increase the health threshold, it just increases the effects. I've used this one a bit in Arena on my tanks, and it could be good, but it usually procs too late, because like I was saying earlier, it's mostly your DPS and whatnot that are dying first, and then, you know, once your tanks are down to 35% health, they're usually the only one left alive anyway. I have heard about combining this with the Coffin Jane strategy though, and I'm sure that can be used to very good effect, because not only will Jane get killed pretty much instantly and have that effect knock back anyone close to her, but then they'll also lose that attack speed, and they'll be stunned and all of that stuff. Specifically in Arena for the Coffin Jane strat, I can imagine it would be very good. Sealed Chain of Ancient God, it's purely for Arena, and also I think the Orc guild boss. It says every 20 seconds, but it does activate immediately upon entering the arena. So if you're lucky, maybe it goes to that annoying Leo and they can't cast their silence immediately. I know I fought a lot of enemies where it went to my Cassandra and I couldn't silence them immediately, and that kind of messed me up sometimes as well. Again, mostly for Arena, but pretty good there. Sorcerous Black Dagger, the one you don't want to see when you go to turn in your 1000 artifact pieces. Purely for Arena, and even then it's not very good. I've heard it can be okay on like Nyx. Up against star level increases its chance to proc up to 20% at 5 star, and it also increases the amount of mana reduced. Personally don't like it. In something as short as an Arena battle, I don't mess with 10% chances anywhere, so no thanks. Soul Spring Water, on the other hand, is a very good artifact for Arena. I like it a lot, even though I only have one 1-star Soul Spring Water. At 0 star, it almost gives you a full orb. I think it needs to be 2 stars to get a full orb. The HP recovery in Arena doesn't do anything. In story mode, however, it could be decent if you're in like a really hard stage and your tank is getting killed halfway in one battle, then they can recover 34% HP. At 2-star, you can make a very dangerous Luna because she would only need to auto attack once, and then boom, she can use her S1 or whatnot. It's not as dangerous since she got nerfed, but it still could be a thing. Next, we're looking at the Talisman of Resistance, which again is mostly for arena, but can be used pretty much everywhere. Raising its star level increases the amount of time you have CC immunity after getting debuffed, while reducing the cooldown. The thing with the Talisman of Resistance is your skills still can get interrupted even if you have it equipped. Like, you can't just throw it on bow and expect the Leo's silence not to interrupt your casting. When you have that CC immunity, maybe at 0-star it won't be enough, but once you get up to like 2 or 3-star, then you will have that time to cast anything you need because then you have that CC immunity. CC immunity can be dispelled though with like Scarlet or Leo, so that is also something to keep in mind. I personally always run this on my Scarlet so she doesn't get like stunned for too long and she can get those 3 orbs to get her S2 off. And finally, we're looking at the Ancient Scope. When your MP hits 100%, so when you have all 6 orbs, you'll get a crit chance and accuracy buff 400 for 10 seconds, but then that has a cooldown of 20 seconds, so you can only have that max 50% uptime. I assume you won't lose the buff when you use any skills or anything once you hit 100% MP, so you'll have that buff for 10 seconds, but then you just need to wait 20 seconds. Also, since I don't have this and I can't test it, I'm not sure if this cooldown goes while you have the buff, or if you have to wait for the cooldown and then get it back. If it's the latter, then it would obviously have a less than 50% uptime. Oh, there is one more one I hoped to forget, the Tome of Black Magic. Again, purely arena. It even says there that it only works in the arena, so no need to discuss about that. It's just pretty underwhelming all around. Every 10 seconds, it targets a single enemy, and that enemy takes damage that ignores defense to 2% of, I assume, their current HP for 5 seconds, so I guess over 5 seconds, 10%, and reduces their mana by 200. But just from the description, it's pretty underwhelming, and I can't really see that it would be that useful, even in the one place it's supposed to be used. But yeah, that's all the artifacts and my thoughts on them. Personally, my favorite artifact is the Golden Cat statue. Tell me what your favorite one is in the comments down below. If you have any more specific questions for like specific content or specific heroes, drop them down there in the comments as well, and me or someone else from the community will hopefully be able to help you out. But that'll do it for today. Also, leaving a like if you happen to enjoy would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, as always, for watching, and until next time.